Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Dayna Show. I'm your host, Dayna Kaplan. And for the first week since I've started this program, I can say that our hostages are back home. And it is a moment of hope, relief, and gratitude for all of Am Yisrael, but specifically reminds us of the people who have been carrying the weight of this war, our Miluimnikim, our reservists. One of them is a very special young man named Yonatan Shalev, who is the founder of Katef El Katef, Shoulder to Shoulder. And he's part of a generation that has not only been protecting this country, but reshaping it, fighting for equality, unity, and recognition for everyone who serves. In this episode, we talk about his journey, what shapes him, and what truly makes a leader in Israel today. A conversation that is so full of heart. If you believe in his vision for a stronger, united Israel, please like, subscribe, and follow, and help us keep their message strong. Am Yisrael Chai. Let's get into it. Yonatan Shalev?
Shalev, yeah.
Shalev. Kapara Alecha. Wow. How old are you, sweetie?
I'm 22. Next week, I'm 23, so.
You're 23. Tell me, where does this fire come from?
I mean, it's a good question. I think it's, sometimes I just told my grandmother that I think that we, the young people in Israel, I sometimes feel like that we're like Atlas from the Greek mythology, that we have a huge burden on our narrow shoulders that we have to carry out and carry on from these past 2 crazy years that, we had to experience. And because I feel like Atlas and most of the people my age feel the same way, I think it helped shape our characters, through the past 2 years of fighting and also the fighting that we had in our Knesset. But I think that's it. I mean, I can't really point on the switch that I made as Yonatan Shalev, from the sweet young Yonatan before I enlisted to the army, or during Yonatan. I also did a mechina before my mandatory service, but I can't point on the past 2 years as those that helped me shift and become the person I am today.
What were you like before the army? What kind of kid were you like before the army?
So I think I was a foolish kid. I just saw my teacher from high school, and she was in complete shock when she.
Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in New York. Not in New York. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland. My dad did a post-grad in Johns Hopkins. And my mom, she's in the high-tech industry. She was also back then. And we moved to Israel when I was, I think, around 4 or 5.
Okay.
I did kindergarten here, the first grade. And then in 2nd grade, I moved back to America, but this time to New York. And then basically my childhood was in America. And we moved back to Israel when I started 7th grade. So my childhood was, I loved it. I loved America.
Yeah?
Yeah. And then we moved to Zichron, and from then my family still lives.
What do you like better, Israel or America?
Israel. Nothing like this place.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I can't point on what specifically makes Israel better than, New York, because New York is like the best city in the world. But I think that there's something that separates us Israelis from any other nation. And, I'll connect it to the other point that I wanted to say. I think it's our willingness to sacrifice. And I think that there's something about the Israeli people that really makes us better than any other place possible. So
there's something about Israel that makes us better.
Yeah.
Where are you looking for? You expect that now?
I saw.
At Sevadom?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Don't worry, we're in the mamad.
Yeah,
You don't need to do anything. You could just sit here and hang. It'll be totally chilled. I wanted to ask you about how you felt about Zionut. When you were growing up, when it came time for you to להתגייס, to get into the army, what did you think about the army then?
So when I grew up in New York, first of all, my grandfather, he died in the Yom Kippur War.
Right.
He was a Sgan Aluf. I think it's I'm not sure what's the equivalent in American degrees, but in the American military. But he died in a very in a bravery in a very brave way. He died in a very tough combat situation where he rescued 33 Israeli hostages in the Sinai warfare. And Chaim Herzog, Yitzhak Herzog's father, he wrote in his book, which is called Yom Adin, that we never saw in any modern warfare this human tank. That's what he called it, where 33 people were hanging for their lives on a tank.
Wow.
So I grew up on my grandfather's stories, and I also went to a Jewish school. I mean, it was like semi-religious Jewish school in New York. And
Did you grow up religious?
no, I didn't.
Okay.
But going to religious schools, it helps you keep your Hebrew.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And in the Israeli school, in the Jewish school, it's called Abraham Joshua Heschel. It's a unique school because I think it helped me understand what makes Israel, the Israel that I know, Israel that sanctifies, innovation and sanctifies young people to study core subjects, that helps us, basically make the James Bond military operations in Iran, a country that relies on the greatest Jewish minds. And I think when I moved to Israel, that was like the turning point. I realized that the Israel that I grew up in America isn't exactly the same Israel that I came here. So, I mean, the American Jews are very, very unique themselves because they have such a deep-rooted love to Israel. So I grew up in a very hostile place where Israel is like always in front, and they teach us that we have to that. I mean, it's such an amazing place. Growing up with like these Jewish people far away from here, I think most Israelis don't really understand the 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 strength of growing up in a place that's not Israel, in a Jewish community. It's very unique.
You almost try harder to be Zioni and Jewish because you have to make a bigger effort. Like I remember when I used to go back to Canada with my kids, we would walk around the Kinyon and they'd be like, let's eat this, let's eat that. And I'm like, Zelo kasher. We kept kasher and it's not, we can't eat it. And they're like, why? Why? And so there, it's like you have to make a bigger effort to maintain your Yahadut and to maintain your Tzionut. It's actually, they're kind of dangerous to be outwardly Tzioni, especially in places like Toronto. Like I did an interview with Melissa Lansman. She's in the government of Canada. She said it's alapanin there. It's really, really bad. So there, it's like almost even more special, the people who stand up for Israel. Nachon?
It is. I grew up in a different time. I think it was right before Operation Detective Edge. I think it's Tzukaitan, and the situation with Jews in all over the globe was different. I mean, it was much easier being Jewish in New York. We had Bloomberg; he was the mayor of the city,
Yeah.
and everything was better. And I think that back then, if you look at American politics, I mean, you couldn't. There wasn't really a difference between the Democrats and the Republicans, and the way that they saw Israel, the way that they viewed Jews in America, because Jews are, I mean, they're a huge fortune for Americans because of I mean, economically and exactly. And I think that right after we moved and after Tzukaitan, everything started to change because everything was starting to become more fragile with the West Bank and the settlements, and everything started to become more difficult for Jews all over the world because of the propaganda that, Arab nations insisted on doing.
Yonatan, how much of Israeli politics were you familiar with when you were in the army, before Katef started?
So I really like reading the news in the morning, and I like.
You're like an old soul?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He's a chavut. Okay.
With my coffee with my butt. And because I always thought about how I can make this place a better place. Yeah. The Israeli state. And I think that I was familiar with the politics, but during my time in the army, I wasn't as familiar as I was before because, all the maslul that we had to do in my unit in Maglan, it's very difficult. You don't have your phone for like almost 3 years. And then my time as a commander during the war, I mean, I didn't really have time to catch up with the Israeli day-to-day politics. But when I finished my mandatory service and when I basically finished my service as well, because I did another 6 months of extra duty, I told myself that I really want to understand the Israeli situation better, because I mean, the sacrifice that we, the young soldiers, had to pay in the past. I mean, it was the past year back then was extraordinary, and I also feel that we young Israelis have to ensure that, I mean, we're gonna live in this country for the next 100 years, and we have to make sure that this country is a good country to live in. And it's crazy, but I don't think that in any modern or Western country, um, 70-year-olds send 20-year-olds to battlefield, and then the 20-year-olds don't get to justify their actions or even start their lives or get into ideal places in the political arena as well. So that's about politics.
Well, Netanyahu was served in the army, right?
He served. I mean, but he's 76. Yeah.
No, obviously.
Yeah.
I want to say, and I probably should have started with this. I want to say to you and to all the guys and women as well who are in Miluim, that you guys are the diamonds of this country. And no matter what happens in the government, whatever the government says about you or treats you in terms of the nation, we all look up to you and think that you're the most special part of this country. And I know, and a lot of people that I've spoken to, that you guys are going to be the next leaders of this country. And so I'm personally so proud of each and every one of you. And you have the backing of the entire state to support whatever you guys need and what you're doing. And that's one of the reasons I invited you here. It's my gratitude for you and what you're doing in this country, and the fact that you're representing the most special part of our nation. I'm reading this book now. It's called The History of the Jews. I don't know if you ever read it. It's by Paul Johnson. It's a very, very fat book. It starts from when Avraham Avinu bought Marat HaMachpelah up until present day. It's about 800 pages. It's really long. And in the beginning, it talks about in Sefer Shmuel, in the Tanakh, how, I'm sorry if I'm bringing in the religious text or whatever, but it connects to what we're talking about today. How the nation, the Israelites, were in a position where they didn't have a king. They were just a group of people scattered everywhere. And there was a big dilemma whether they should have a kingdom or they should just stay with the way they were, believe in God. But God stepped in to Samuel, to Shmuel, the Navi. And he said, you need to have a kingdom because you need to have an army. Because all the other nations around you are going to come attack you. Hashem, God said, you need to have an army. So at the end of the day, the government doesn't control us. We control the government. They're there for us. We're not there for them. We should be the ones, you guys should be the ones who have the say, not them. And I think that it's a very important point to make, because this whole time, it's like, I feel like you guys are being shoved around. You leave your personal life and all the things that you have to do to go to the army. You guys should be the ones that have the say in this country, not the government. What do you think about that?
I think that between the government and the soldiers, there's an unwritten script which says that we, the young soldiers and reservists, will go out and fight and protect Israel, but the government will oblige to our very deep and rooted ideology that they will serve the reason that we went and fought for. And I think that right now, what's going on in Israel, 2 years into this very difficult war, if you look at the Israeli cabinet of war, I mean, you see people that didn't even serve in the military, that they send us to fight. Meanwhile, they're trying their best to not enlist their children. And I think that this situation best preserves and shows that the situation in Israel is very bad. I mean, we went and fought during these 2 years, and we fought in the same reason that I told you before. We fought because this country, we have nowhere else to live. I mean, I had a place to live in New York, and as I said, we're not going anywhere. This country is too. We fought too much, and we're not gonna leave this country. But as I was saying, I think that once an Israeli government has a war cabinet that tries its best to send us to keep on fighting an ongoing Slovem Miluim, and meanwhile they're trying to exempt young soldiers who are healthy to go out and fight. I mean, what else can we do? I mean, this situation shows everyone that we have to something has to change, and we can't keep on going on this same route, because this is a very this route won't lead us to anywhere. So
I don't think that because this war is has been extra long, that's the reason why people are upset about the giyus of the Haredim.
I also think that's not the reason. I think that the reason is because people truly understand that, I mean, it doesn't matter if they come from the right side of the political map or the left side of the political map. I think reservists come from everywhere. I mean, that's what's also makes the Israeli army so special. I mean, if you look at, that's why it's called Tzva Ha'am, because it's the nation's army, and everyone is obligated to enlist, and everyone enlists because of those very deep and Jewish rooted, ideology that we are here to protect Israel. And I think that Israel is also one of the countries. Well, I can't think of any other country that also the very far left people from the political map and the far right, everyone understands the importance of enlisting to the military. I mean, look at the United States. I mean, look at the far left Democratic Party. I mean, people there are so against the state and against everything. You're so progressive. And I mean, also here, the very far left people enlist and die in this war. I mean, people who went out in 2023 to protest. My friends who protested died during the war. And also I have friends who come from the very far right side of the political map, and they went in this war, and they come from the settlements, and they died in this war. I mean, that's what makes Israel so special, that people understand that this is our homeland.
And also, according to our enemy, it doesn't matter if you're left or right. We're all in the same boat. And that's what I don't understand about the Haredim is that don't they see that they're equally they're equally being they're not secluded from what's going on. They have to be protected also in this war.
So go to Bnei Brak and tell them that. I think that they won't agree, but I think that the question that you asked me beforehand is basically that I think it's not because the war is going on for 2 years. I think it's because, they're not only not enlisting during this difficult 2 years that this country has passed, but they're also getting exempt and getting monthly stipends for it. They're basically getting paid to exempt from military service from mandatory.
Crazy.
Which is crazy. I mean, think about it. I mean, I'm trying my best to start my young life in Israel, and I want to live here. And I'm saying it loud and clear. I want to live in Israel. I want to live a life in this state. I want to, I have a family here. I want to work hard and pay my debts, and I also want to build a nice house here, and I want to live quietly. And I mean, we have a big sector in Israel, which I think stands at around 1 million people today, which will make almost a third of the country in 20 years, that don't want to pay their debts. They don't want to pay their, the very basic citizenship debts that we have to pay, every Israel has to pay when they reach the age of 18, which is enlisted in the military. They don't want to do it. And they're also not only getting exempt for it, and they're basically not applying to the law, they're also getting paid to do so. I mean, the situation is crazy.
It's so bananas. My first podcast I did, it wasn't such a great one because I spent most of it arguing with this guy over the gius of the Haredim. And he's not a Haredi, he's a regular religious guy. And he's like, there needs to be a religious presence in this country, a spiritual presence, a spiritual Maglan for this country. And my answer is, what percentage of those people are actually sitting and learning?
I think it's a very small amount that are sitting all day from 9 to 11 o'clock.
So what's the deal? How do they get out of it?
Political presence. That's my answer. I mean, you have people working from the past 40 years, sitting in the government. It's called, I think it's in Persian, it's called sabla. What sabla means, it's like very deep rooted ideology that you don't take any shortcuts. I mean, you look at the long run and you think at the end point, and you're gonna reach the end point. And I think that's what the ultra orthodox did from the days of Menachem Begin's days as prime minister. They thought about the sabla of how they're basically going to achieve all their goals. And right now we're 2025, almost 2026. Basically, they are a very they're exempt from the army. They're not paying their basic citizen debts that they have to pay in the Israeli state. They are trying to they're not obligated to anything except for themselves. I mean, they're a very outgated community. It's crazy. I mean, I don't, it's almost as if it's, I don't even have the words to explain it. It's crazy. I mean, it's lunatic.
I know.
I mean, we're living in a modern society in a Western country as well.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Any sense to me as well.
I have two boys, like I told you before, who are both in Miluim now. My oldest son is trying to finish his degree in Ariel. I think it's the longest degree ever. I mean, it's supposed to be done in 3 years. I think he's on 5 or 6 now. Because every single year he has to defer for another year. And my youngest, he's the same age as you. Finally, he had a break from Miluim after the second use. And he's freaking out because he's not making a living. He wants to get on with his life. He wants to start a job or go to school. He got a job, and that day he got another tzav.
It's crazy.
He got another tzav, and he came home crying, like literally crying. He's like, when am I going to get out of this? When am I going to be able to like be on my own? It's not fair that our kids, I'm saying this as a mom, our kids are not able to litkadem. And I know that they are going in there and they're fighting and they're with 100% with their whole heart. Okay. They're doing with their whole heart. But it drives me bananas that there are other kids who are not doing this, who are not part of this equation.
Tzav Shmona, the emergency call-ups are supposed to be for emergency call-ups. And this war has been going on for 2 years. And I'm not sure anymore what's a true emergency call-up or no. Because I received 3 months ago at Tzav Shmona for the northern border in Lebanon. I mean, is that at Tzav Shmona? Is that at Tzav 8? No, it's not. It's not an emergency call-up. I mean, because right now the army is lacking soldiers. There's Dado Bar Khalifa. He's one of the commanders, the leaders of the Israeli military. He's in charge of all the Koach Adam in the army, and he came to the Knesset to one of the parliament meetings, and he said that Israel right now requires an extra 12,000 soldiers because of the true burden that we, the reservists, have on our shoulders, and also because of all the injured and dead during the war. And I mean, I look at those Tzav Shmona that I received. I finished my miluim a couple of weeks ago, but I look at it and I say it's not only it's unfair. I mean, it's unlawful. I mean, it's not an emergency call up. It's not. I mean, it's not. You can't call anyone and say it's an emergency call 2 years after just to protect the border of Lebanon between Manara and El Adaisa. It's not. And I think that one of the true crucial points after October 7th is that we realized that Israel has the need to be a state that has all the abilities to protect all its borders all the time, and Israel has to have a big army, boots on the ground. It's something from the Vietnam War. I mean, it's a term used by so many U.S. presidents, and it's true. It's true to us today in Israel that we have to be boots on the ground all the time, and we have to prepare all the time to fight all our enemies at all costs. I mean, right now also Hezbollah. So it's not an emergency call-up, but we were lacking soldiers during this emergency call-up. And the situation is very, very... I mean, it's difficult because I think that the solution won't come immediately. I think the solution will come in a couple of years when the war will end.
Which solution?
So
the solution to the deficit in the army, or
the solution to the deficit in the army, and also the solution to the ultra-Orthodox, because I think that the solution to the army I think we will resolve it in the next couple of months, because Israel will end the war in Gaza. That's the way it seems. And we won't have to have so many reservists all the time, which is also, economically, Israel is paying huge tolls.
Yeah.
And I think that the situation with the reservists is going to change a bit, but that won't change the need of Israel having to prepare for big battles in the next couple of years. And I think that the situation with the ultra-Orthodox will end up in the next years as well, because Israel has a mandatory service law, which is called Chok Yus Chova, which says that every 18-year-old has to enlist to the military when he reaches the mandatory age, which is 18. And this law has been going on since 1948. And this law promises that we will have a country. And, generations of young soldiers have went to war because of this law and didn't come back. They died in battlefield protecting Israel and serving Israel because of this mandatory law. And I think that it's not only a reason and a requirement of more soldiers that's the reason that the Haredis will enlist. I think it's a truly rooted reason that most Israelis understand after this war, that there can't be any gated communities in Israel that detach themselves from any,
No.
Yeah, it's not possible anymore.
No. We're all paying with our lives. Every single one of us here is paying or is doing something for this country, whether you're a parent of a soldier or a soldier. Everybody is making a huge sacrifice for this country. And I come from a religious background, so I completely understand, I understand where they're coming from. But especially in a situation like this, you don't have the luxury to sit back. You don't have the luxury to decide whether you want to or not. Everybody has to do it. So tell me about Katef L'Katef, and tell me about how it started. And I want to know how much progress you guys are making.
So Katef L'Katef started when I finished it wasn't mandatory service, because as I told you, I did an extra half a year and additional half a year. And when I finished my service, I think it was around October 24, I flew right away to Asia. I trucked
2020, October
24
of 2024. Okay.
And then I got an emergency call up to come back. I received my team received a Tzap Shmone. And then when I came home, it was 2 months after a good friend of mine, he was murdered in an attack in Bikat Yarden. His name was Yonatan Deutsch, and in a terror attack by Hamas militias.
Oh, wow.
And he was in my team in Maglan unit. So he was a very close friend of mine. And I think it was a couple of days before he died, we had a phone call, and he talked to me about the situation in Israel. He comes from a very religious household, and he did 2.5 years in the yeshiva. But he was such a close friend to... He was... I mean, we come from such different backgrounds, but that's what the military does best. Takes people from two different sectors and makes them become best friends.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing. And after he was murdered, I told myself that there's no way that I'm not gonna, you know, as you asked me, how was my political, stance before, enlisting, and I told myself that there's no way in the world that I'm not going to try my best to perceive his memory and the best I can. So I sat with a good friend of mine from Zichron, and I told him that I have an idea, maybe go to the kibbutzim and the Otef and try to work in agriculture there. And he told me, a lot of people do it, and it truly does bring people from different sectors to one place to work, and you'll have the compliance to have debates there and everything. It's gonna be great. But he told me that there's a bigger situation that we can attack, and he told me it's the enlistment thing with the Haredis, and I truly had no idea what the situation was, because I was in the military. I didn't really understand that basically there are the difference between a reservist and a mandatory service soldier, because I didn't understand what it's like leaving your house for 300 days, leaving your work, leaving your children, leaving the ones you love, because when you're in mandatory service, that's what you have to do. It's a different world.
Yeah.
And then we had an idea we looked at the political arena, and we saw that basically that there's no miflaga that right now, that there's no party that's basically showing a true clear stance on the service and what's the solution.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you is like, who besides you represents the Miluimikim in the government?
So there's Yoaz Hender's party, which he opened, a couple of months before me and Ido, my friend from Zichron, we sat. But the thing with Yoaz is he's 50 years old. He's not 20 years old. He's not, I was 21 back then. And he doesn't understand what it's like, being released from mandatory service and going straight into reserve duty. He did 20 years of reserve duty before the war. So that's the big difference. And Minido said that there's no way that we're not gonna, try and find a solution, try and, go into the Knesset and try to basically shout for the younger generation. We also, one of the things that we saw that Israel lacks in is that there wasn't any, I thought that during the war, there are going to be a lot of new groups that are going to form of young reservists, young people, male and female alike, that are going to, try and fight for our generation. Because we're the generation that saved Israel.
That's right.
We're the generation that saved Israel during this horrible war. And we're going to...
You sacrificed the most.
The most. Our generation. And we said that we're going to be the solution. And basically, the day after we sat for a beer, we went to the Knesset. And we said that we formed a very big group called Katef Katef. We went to ministers, to parliament members. And we told them that we have 10,000 people on our side. If you tell that to a ministry, he... there's no way in the world that he doesn't want to have a meeting with you. 10,000 people in Israel is a lot. I'm not sure what's the stance of it in any other political arena, but in Israel it's a lot. And we basically met in the first few months with almost all of the ministers that took a stance on the reservists and the mandatory service law. And I think that it took a hit after I was kicked out of the...
Yeah, let's talk about that, dude. Let's talk about that.
It was a crazy, crazy moment.
Yeah, well, you look pretty calm. You when they kicked you out.
Yeah, I tried to keep my peace.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you had to be like mechubad b'tzura mesuyemet?
I think that one of the reasons that we're basically succeeding is because we're not trying to build out these, you said. We're speaking the truth. I'm not scared to take a stance on anything. And I think, truly, I'm not going to let anyone... I'm not going to let any parliament member, any minister, not take us seriously because of our age and because of what we stand for. And because I know what I stand for is the best thing possible. It's the most Jewish thing as well. And is that everyone will enlist to the military because we have one country and we have to protect it. And I think that also, when they kicked me out, what I was shouting that I lost dozens of friends, and do you even know what it is? And they're speaking about, he told me this thing. It's called kiruv levavot. I don't think that if I say kiruv levavot in English, people understand what the meaning of it is. But kiruv levavot, what he was trying to say is that, man, you have to work out. His name is ינון Azoulai. He's a parliament member from Shas party. Basically, what he was trying to say is that kiruv levavot is basically, come close to me. We'll speak about it. We'll find a solution through dialogues. No, you do not find solutions through dialogues. And that's what I was yelling to him. I've lost dozens of friends, and you're talking to me about kiruv levavot. I'm not going to dialogue with you. I mean, the whole reason that they're sitting in the Vadat Chutz and Bitachon is to find a solution to exempt young people from the military. And the whole idea of sitting there, I mean, for the past half a year, I went to the Knesset dozens of times. And I mean, only thinking about the true meaning of me going there, because they're trying to find a solution to exempt young people from serving its country, it's delusional. I mean, Israel. I mean, the Knesset is the House of Representatives in Israel, and what they're trying is not to help the reservists. They're trying to help the ones who are exempting from military service. And I think that was a shout of a generation. And so many people feel the same way that I feel, and I mean, so many people are afraid of going to the Knesset because there's something kind of scary going in.
So where do you get the balls to do it?
It's not that scary. I mean, look at me. I'm not a scary guy.
No, you're not. You're not scary at all. But it is a little bit intimidating sitting there in a room with members of Knesset and yelling at them.
It is intimidating, and I think that I think I was speaking about it in the beginning. I mean, I think that our stance that we're taking in those, when we come to the Knesset and in those dialogues that we have, I think that shows. I think it truly shows that we, the young people in Israel, we take a stance on true. I mean, when I come to the Knesset, I want to sanctify what's best for my generation, for the young 20-year-olds in Israel. And that's why I'm not afraid to take a stance on anything.
Because you have so many people standing behind you.
I have so many people standing behind me, and I know that what I'm trying to take a stance on is for the best of my peace, for the best of all Israeli 20-year-olds, and is the best for the country. Listen, I want to live in an Israel that's, kind of like the 2000, I think 2000, the beginning of the 2000s, 2002, where Israel started becoming a startup nation, where Israel started, sending young people to study in the best academies possible, studying in, agriculture as well, becoming teachers. I want Israel to become a household of, young people who want to stay here, who want to come and want to renew Israel, because I mean, after the war is going to end, Israel is going to be in a very difficult and tough place. And I think that the stance that we're taking, I mean, right now we're speaking about the mandatory service law and how we're going to list Haredis and how we're going to stop them for exempting from the military. But I think that the stance that we're taking is making young people like myself understand that if we're not going to fight for our future, no one else is going to fight for our future. And I think that's the best thing that we're doing right now. And I think we're making a huge turn in that. I think that people understand that in order to live here, we have to fight for our values that we want to live in, what country we want to live in. I want to live in an Israel that, doesn't look at any Western country or Western state with Western values that, I'm going to say, attacks, the high elites of the country. I mean, I can't see America. I mean, America is different since Donald Trump came to power. But I mean, look at Europe. I don't see any European country attacking its high-tech industry, attacking its academia, attacking its agricultural presence. I mean, we want to live in a country that young people want to go and do these things. I want people to go and become and become geniuses who go to the high tech and basically make the best innovations possible, so we can still go out and go and do James Bond fictional attacks far away from Israeli borders. I want young people like myself going into the academia, going into the tikshoret, going to places where we need us. I mean, there's once Trumpeldor said, "Tzarich galgal ani galgal." Need a wheel, I'll become the wheel itself. And that's what he said in 1926, right before he died. And I think that's what's going to separate us Israelis from any other nation. As I said, the willingness to sacrifice our good to and for this country. And I want people to do the same thing as well. I want people to understand that.
Do you think that your generation has a low morale about sacrificing now because of what happened during this Gius of the past couple of years?
No, I think people don't have a low morale because people my age sacrificed too much in the past 2 years. And I think that people will, if you call it sacrifice, going into the tech industries, going into the agricultural industry, I think people understand that in order to live here, people my age, I'm not speaking about the older generations, in order to live here, we have to take the small hit and we have to go to these places in order to keep this country and the Zionist dream alive. And as I said, when I spoke to my grandma about a couple of days ago about when I told her that I feel like we're Atlas, that we have to take, we have to carry the world on our narrow shoulders. I think that's what it is. That's what we've been doing for the past 2 years, and we're gonna do it for the next 75 years because we have nowhere else to go.
Do you know people who want to leave the country because of what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what do you say to them?
I can't judge them because everyone took these 3 years quite differently. But I tell them that I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, this is going to be a different country. This is going to be a better country, a more moral country, moral not towards its enemies, moral towards its citizens. I think it's going to become a better nation that, values the things that we're good in and doesn't exempt people from, doing these high valuable things, from these high valuable assets. I want people to understand that I don't want the world to like us. I think that there's going to be anti-Semitism from now to dawn, but I want people to have the need of the Israeli brain, to have the need of Israeli tech, to have the need of our very special, Jewish mindset. And that's what I want, of the Jewish innovation. And with them having the need of that, I think we're going to keep this country alive because we're surrounded by 7 enemy borders. We don't have any high valuable, economical assets. We're not like the Medinot HaMifratz. We don't have oil. We don't have, we have some a bit.
We don't have a lot of natural resources.
We don't have a lot of natural resources, but what we have is the best people in the world. So I think we're going to find a plan and a solution to.
What do you see that plan being? How do you think we're going to get there? Considering the fact that the whole world hates our guts right now.
I think that the solution is by putting younger people in not in power, but putting young people in valuable places. When I say that, I mean look throughout history, okay? Young people were always very involved, also in the political arena, also in anywhere else. And I think that young people also found out the best theories in the world. Look at Einstein. He found out Torat Echasut at the age of 26, which is, I think, one of the most meaningful theories in the world. Steve Jobs, he found out Apple at the age of 21. Also, look at Bill Gates at the age of 20, he founded Microsoft. They didn't even finish their, their studies at university. They were college dropouts.
Right.
And I think that in Israel, 20-year-olds have to go through much more difficult things than 20-year-olds throughout anywhere else in the world. And I think that because of what we've been through, I don't have an like a straight ideology about what the best plan is in order to stay put in this country. But I think that we have to involve the younger generation more and more, and not try to push it aside like the right now what the politicians are trying to do. I mean, right now what the politicians are trying to do is trying to stay place in their chairs and not leave.
Right.
And I think that's the worst part of it, because I mean we've been through so much and they truly don't understand us. They don't understand our needs, and they don't understand the needs of this country.
Like I told you, I've been here for 30 years. I'm not a political person at all. I don't have any faith in the government at all. Especially after October 7th, I was like, who the hell is running the show here? And I think that the government needs to like start from scratch, and a whole bunch of new people need to go in.
I want Israel to become the best place in the world to live in, the funnest place. That's what I want it to be.
Why do you say that when I say we need a new government, that you want it to be the funnest place to live in? How do you make that connection?
I mean, people my age they see politics, they see it as a stain on the wall. I mean, it's something it's not good. A lot of corruption. It's a very, it's not a hostile place to go to. And I mean, they're scared of it. And I understand them because I see it the same way as them, because I'm from that generation. And I see what they want in Israel, what the young people my age want, the ones who fought for the past 2 years. They want to live in a country that's fun. They want to go out to the beach and, play Hakpatzot and Tumpel Little Beach in Tel Aviv. They want to go to Jerusalem and, pray in the holy city. Everyone has their things that they want to do in this country, but they want to live in a quiet country, one that that values our sacrifice these past 3 years. And a country that values the sacrifice of the soldiers the past 3 years is also a fun country, is a better country. And I think fun is not it's not a childish word. I think it's the way that, that people need to view our needs.
We want to enjoy life.
Yeah, we do.
We're only here for a short period of time. We want to enjoy life. That's right.
Exactly.
Tell me about Katef Al Katef. What kind of progress are you guys making?
So we started quite small.
That's right.
And I think right now we are the biggest organization, and out of all the, reservist organizations right now that there are, because we have a very, very, very big group chats. We have a lot of data.
Yeah.
And we're trying to find the best time to use it. And I mean, the progress that we made is tremendous.
Sorry, sweetie.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's tremendous because it's funny, without a lot of resources, we started as a small group, and right now, a year afterwards,
I know you guys have such a huge following.
Yeah, we do.
So are you making any change in the government?
I think we are. I mean, we blocked the government when Edelstein was head of the Chutz and Bitachon. How do you say Chutz and Bitachon?
That exterior.
Yeah,
the Minister of Exterior?
Something like that.
Okay.
Chutz and Bitachon.
Bitachon is security.
Yes, he was head of the security and security affairs group.
Okay.
Whatever it is.
Whatever.
And we blocked the government from passing a bad law. I mean, they were trying to pass a law that will switch the mandatory service law, and that will exempt all the Haredis from mandatory service when they reach the age of 18. And we stopped it. I mean, it's on us. I think it's the first time that reservists came to the Knesset for a whole year, lobbied during those conferences. And
are you allowed to just walk in?
No, you have to get a
Sure?
Sure.
Yeah. Is it hard to get any sure?
And anyone can get
Anyone can go in?
I mean,
are they like, there's Yonatan?
I also saw it as difficult.
Yeah.
You have to get an issue, but anyone who wants to enter the Knesset can enter the Knesset.
Yeah.
That's why it's called and in Hebrew it's called Bet Am. I mean, it's the nation's place.
Okay.
And anyone should be able to go and watch these conferences, and when they speak about trying to pass laws. I mean, everyone should be allowed to enter.
Yeah, it's about us.
Exactly. And we stopped them from passing a bad law. a very bad one. And there's a Knesset member called Yaakov Asher. He's from Yadut Torah. He had an interview to Makor Rishon, and he said it's the first time that the Miluimnikim, the reservists, they stopped us. They beat us. That's what he said. That was the kuteret of the.
You must have felt so great.
I mean, it's not only that I felt great. I felt that we made a change. I mean, religious Orthodox, ultra Orthodox parliament members saying that we, the reservists, beat them in this race. It was one of the best feelings that I had. And by the way, Yaakov Asher, he's a good man. We truly don't agree on anything, but he's one of the people that I've had the most intellect dialogues with. He's a very smart man. He was the mayor of Eibrak, and he's one of the parliament members who's trying. He was one of the most valuable Haredi assets in those conferences, because he was the one who was basically obliged on to watch Yulia Edelstein, that he would try and pass the same law. So it was very interesting. This whole year was very interesting.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, as a 22-year-old,
After this experience, do you have any shifa to be in politics?
I don't. I mean, I look at myself and I ask what's gonna be best for this country, and that's what I'm gonna do. I mean, I'm not. Politics don't link to me. It's not. I don't think it's in any 22-year-old's interest to go into the political arena.
But you do see that your presence is making a change, and for the people that you represent. And unfortunately, if you want to make a big change like that, the only way you can do it is in the government. Right?
I agree with you, but I also look at it not only as a sprint, but as a marathon.
Yeah.
I think that I want to, in 10 years from now, as the religious Jews and the ultra-Orthodox Jews, as I said, sabla before, the Persian word for, deep-rooted ideology. I want my sector. I call it my sector is the reservist sector, and the reservist sector is basically almost all of the Israelis. So I want them to also have a sabla, the young reservists, and the sabla is that we will make a change, but it's not a sprint, and that change will come from us, as I said, sanctifying the best things that we're at, and trying to lead the way for younger people who are right now going to enlist, or people who are right now in mandatory service, to lead the way and show them that we can live in a better country. Because I think that one of the things that Israel is lacking of, the presence of, is of hope. People are lacking hope in Israel. And I want people to have hope that this country is going to be a better one, and a country that's going to reward our sacrifice for the past 2 years. And I'm not sure that going into the political arena is going to achieve that.
Yeah, but you're so good at it. You're so good at yelling at people.
I mean, yeah,
the zam that you have there is just like magical.
I look at the Knesset and all the interviews that I have. I think that's the best vacuum where you can, actually obliterate, almost anyone in. And I think it's also the only times that the Knesset members we come to, and they're basically very vulnerable as well. And I don't really care if they're vulnerable or no. I'm just gonna scream my ideology, which is almost any young person's ideology in Israel. And
this is what's going on in the shetach. They have to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, they do.
Are they aware?
I'm not sure they are. I mean, no, they're not aware at all.
But, I mean, some of them must have children that are in the army.
That's what I said. The political arena is so corrupt. I mean, it's not corrupt only, actually corrupt, but it's also morally corrupt. And that's the problem. People don't stand for anything anymore. And what I want to stand for is that in 75 years, I'll look at my grandchildren, and I'll say that we built a better country, that we live in a more moral country, that we live in a better standing country, a country that, a country that really pays respect for our sacrifice in a country that
Appreciates you.
appreciates us, and a country that understands what the younger generation needs. And I always look at it. I think that throughout history, the younger generations anywhere in the world, they always had the last word. You look at the Chalutzim in Israel; they built this country. You look at America. I remember in history lessons studying about the African American movements in the '60s. I mean, Martin Luther King, he was 45, I think, when he was killed, but the whole movement was led by young people. Look at the Arab Spring as well. It started through the universities in Arab countries. Look at it. I mean, it's not only it's everywhere. Young people always have the last word. Always lead. They're the torch in the front, and they lead the pathway to anyone else. And I think that in Israel, it's just not happening because of that. We have to go through mandatory service. We have to go through these very difficult 2 years. And I want people to understand that if after we finish our mandatory service, we don't try and get more involved in the Israeli arena and fly straight away to Thailand and to Northern America and fly for a year, then this country won't be the same.
Something has to change.
Something has to change. I think something is changing.
What happens if the war is over? Now they're talking about a ceasefire, that the war will end in Gaza. What happens to Katef El Katef? What happens to Milawimnikim then? If all of a sudden everything ends?
I think, as I told you before, that it doesn't end when the war ends. Israel has to have a strong military, has to have the ability to open wars and end them fast, has to have the ability to make these emergency call-ups. And in order to have the ability to make those emergency call-ups, it has to have a lot of reservists, as we saw in the past 2 years.
Yep.
And that's why I think that even if the war ends, our war doesn't end, the reservists' war. And Katef Katef will stay strong. We're not only advocating though the reservists need, we're advocating the young generations need. And I think that's the shift that we made in the past 2 to 3 months.
Can we talk about it? What your aim is for Katef El Katef?
Last night, in Ulpan Shishi, Ashira Greenberg, she was Tomer Greenberg's wife. Magad and Golani and Gdud 13. She said that we lost an entire generation of people who could have been the future of this country. And what my stance is, we really did lose the best people this country offered. People who were supposed to go in the political arena. You were supposed to interview them, not me. Those people, the same people that were supposed to lead Israel and make Israel a better country. And the shift that we made is a shift that I think is a much needed shift. Is a shift that's going to show people my age that in order to make a change, you have to have the balls, like you said before. You have to advocate for your ideology. It doesn't end with a story in this Instagram or a Twitter or a tweet. It doesn't end there. You have to work very hard, so we can promise that that this past 2 years was not for nothing, and you have to fight very hard in order to promise that our generation gets what it deserves. And I think that's the shift that we made, because we really did. We lost the best people in this country the past 3 years. I had 2 friends who I lost during the war, who came from very different households. One of them was Yonatan, as I told you before. He came from a religious house in Beit Shan, which is in Israel's periphery. And one of my best friends, he wasn't from Maglan. He did the mechina before the military with me. His name was Roy Maron. And he came from a Chiloni household. And he did the mechina with me. He served in Seyed Khaouf. He died in the beginning of the war on the 13th of November. And when I saw Ulpanchishi and I saw Shira Greenberg speaking about the people that we lost that were supposed to lead this country, I I could not stop thinking about those two. Those two that came from two different households, those two who fought in the same war, those two who stood for what's best in Israel. They stood for young and brave soldiers. They stood for the same, amazing, intelligent Jewish mindset that we want everyone to have, and that we want everyone to have the need in. And they stood for what's good in this country. And yeah, I'm speaking a lot about sacrifice during this podcast, but their sacrifice is what allows me to come here today and speak of my stance. And I think that because we lost two fellow leaders who were supposed to they were supposed to present the new Israeli, the Israeli 2.0 after the war. And because of those two, right now today I feel like I'm also a better man. And what I'm representing is not only representing their story, but I'm representing the bigger Israeli story. The story of young soldiers who went to battlefield and and became back different men, and were clear of any, we're clear of any and any. I'm not doing this to achieve my needs. I'm doing this to achieve the bigger picture, and is to live in a more peaceful, moral, a more adjusted Israel after 2 years of war, and an Israel that promises that in the next 75 years we will live in a country that will succeed, in all of the tchumim possible. And their story says it all, because two people came from two different households and fought for the same and bigger picture. That's what makes this country better. That's what I want to stand for.
Tell me about your parents. Are they proud of you? How do they feel about what you're doing?
I mean, yeah, they're definitely proud, and I think that because not a lot of 22-year-olds.
No, no, they don't.
Yeah,
You're really special.
they're proud. They're also worried. I mean, like any parent,
Yeah.
they were more worried when I was in the military.
Yeah. Do you get any backlash? Do you get any like death threats or stuff like that online?
Do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not scared.
You're not. Doesn't.
Than most people. Also, people who don't agree with me, and they don't wish those bad things. And I think most people truly feel better on the internet, to type all these crazy and disgusting
Do you
backlashes.
do you get a lot of attention when you walk around? People notice you.
Yeah, people notice me. I mean, it's kind of weird because I never thought that I would become this person that people see in the street and they know who I am.
When I told my kids that you were coming, they're like, "Oh my god! Like he's bigger than any other guest you've had. He is like mamash. Like for Milumnikim and soldiers, you're like really up there.
I mean, I'm just trying to live a very basic and neutral life.
Wow, you're so humble.
I mean, yeah, because I'm not doing what I'm doing in order to become a celebrity. It's not.
Obviously, but not a lot of guys, even though they recognize the imbalance and the injustice of it all, they wouldn't come up with what you came up with. They wouldn't take that initiative.
Listen, as I told you before, I think the only reason that you're interviewing me and not someone else is because I was the first to take a step and a leap in the muddy waters. And I think that those two friends that I was speaking about before that they were supposed to take the leap before me. So that's the reason to be humble. I'm not special than anyone else, and there's so many people in the state of Israel who've been through more
For sure.
through such difficult times and more difficult times than I've been in. And that's why I try to neutralize, and that's why also I'm always screaming and always shouting. I'm trying to lower my tones a bit, because I truly understand that what I'm representing is not my ideology. It's a lot of people's ideology and a lot of people's stance.
Yes, but what I wanted to say is that the rage that you have when you're screaming is the voice of all of the Miluimnikim. It's not just your voice. It is the voice of of the people from that have sacrificed from the last 2 years, from this generation, who are frustrated and who are angry at the government, at what they've lost, of all the sacrifices they've made with their families, of losing friends, losing limbs. That comes out from your voice.
As you said,
And the reason that I'm having you here is not because I think that you're well, I do think you're amazing, but anybody who fights for my children is already a big V on my box. Anyone. Like, and you should know that, you should have more moms on Kateva Katev, because we really, if anyone F's with my kids, I'm telling you, I will rip their head off. Okay.
all the moms from my tzebet, they're like they always they want to come and they want to take a part of Katap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're your biggest supporters.
you are. Listen, I think that as you said, I've lost friends. I've been through a lot. People lost limbs. Parents lost their children's lost their parents of this war. And I think that the only way to promise that we won't go through hell again, like we've been through in the past 2 years, is that my generation will take the leap towards the muddy waters as I did, and that we, the young generation, will promise that this won't happen again. Because this is in our hands now. The ball is in our hands, and we now have to take a clear stance. And my stance isn't. I'm not representing everyone. We have to. All the generation, the younger generation, has to take a stance.
That's right.
This won't happen again, and we won't allow it to happen again. And if this happens again, we will do it the best way possible. And I think that because of what we've been through, it will happen. The change is going to come.
Listen, I've been around in this world a little bit longer than you, and I see a cycle that after the worst things have happened, you always have the best things that happen. That always out of something really bad comes something really, really good. And if if you've started a movement, or at least some kind of movement within the Miluimnikim and the soldiers in this country, then you've already done such a great thing. There needs to be more representation for these people. They need to have a voice in the government.
I agree with you. And I think not only a voice in the government, but an active voice everywhere. And I mean, yeah, that's it. Right before I came here, this one of the fellow soldiers from Maglan who fell in the war, his mom wrote me, and I didn't know him as well as other soldiers that fell during the war, and she told me that what you're doing is the best thing that someone can do during these difficult times. And you talked to me about backlash. You talked to me about a lot of people not liking my movement and my activity. And what I say to myself every time to remind myself that what I'm doing is good is when I receive these messages. And when I told her that I'm going to a podcast in English, she told me, "Wow, that's amazing." I advocate not only in Hebrew, I advocate in English as well.
Yes.
And so,
Is this the first English podcast you've done?
no, I've been to other podcasts. No, podcast. Yeah, I did interviews in English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, good. Well, you did a really good job.
I hope so.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of soldiers who have families that are Dovrei Anglit and that wouldn't, English speaking, and they would like to hear you speak in English and understand what's going on. I think it's really, really important.
It is.
Yeah. Thank you so, so much for coming. Is there anything that you want to promote or say to the viewers, people who are listening right now, how they can support you? Katef el Katef. I'll put the links and everything, but anything that you want, any message that you want to give?
I think that I gave the messages during the podcast.
Okay.
I want to thank them for listening and for also, showing interest in people my age and wanting their success, because our success is your success.
That's right.
And that's what I always tell my parents, that. And I think that, as I said, we're gonna see the younger people take a stance, and we're gonna see the change soon enough.
We're very excited to see you guys be the leaders in our future. We are because you guys have had so much experience. You come from the depths of hell. It's part of your DNA now to protect the country, and I know that you're going to do it in the best way possible. I wish you so much luck in the future, and I appreciate that you came so much, sweetie.
Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for watching. I'm Israel Chai. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of The Dayna Show. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to the podcast, like and share with your friends on social media, and rate us 5 stars. Don't forget to tune in next week, and we'll see you then.